Why are you doing this to us? Because you're here. The Strangers Chapter 1 was directed by Rennie Harlan, who's done a lot of movies throughout his career. Die Hard 2 was the only Die Hard movie that he ended up doing. However, he ended up doing a couple movies on this particular one, not Snakes on a Plane, but Deep Blue Sea. Deepest Bluest, His Hat is Like a Shark's Fin, and The Long Fist Goodnight. The Long Kiss Goodnight. Nevertheless, that's just me thinking about Gina Davis in that movie. So, Rennie Harlan has done a lot of other stuff, though. He did Cutthroat Island, a movie that was so renowned and was so well received at the box office that it tanked the studio that funded it. It wasn't Rennie Harlan's fault. That movie is a bit weird. Also had something to do with Matthew Modine not really succeeding as an act. I don't really remember Matthew Modine being in anything substantial after that, at least in a starring role. Nevertheless, he also did Cliffhanger, and he did Driven. He did Exorcist: The Beginning. He also did 12 Rounds. The John Cena movie, when they kept trying to put John Cena in movies, in WWE films, kept saying, we're going to pour more money at you. And then he had to go into Hollywood and do more stuff. Let's not talk about John Cena, even though John Cena's whole you can't see me applies to The Strangers Chapter 1. Yeah, kind of tipping my hand a little bit as to how I felt about The Strangers Chapter 1. I have now said The Strangers Chapter 1 so many goddamn times that it has lost all meaning. Speaking of things that have lost all meaning, the Strangers franchise. This is the first of a trilogy of prequels, and you have to have them be prequels because we know what happened at the end of The Strangers Prey at Night. I recently did retro review, and I also did, well, that really wasn't a retro review. It only came out 6 years ago, but I did retro review the first Strangers, and yes, by the way, it does have something to do with The Strangers. It has nothing to do with the other two films, as hilarious as Putting a Perfect Getaway in that would have been. So yeah, if you're unfamiliar with The Strangers, here's the rundown. 3 masked assailants attack a couple for no goddamn reason because they were home. That's the plot of the first one, and then they attack 4 people in a trailer park in the second one. And now we're getting the first third of a trilogy. Yeah, I know, math. It's really, really shocking. So, if you are familiar with the Strangers franchise, congratulations. You basically have seen Strangers Chapter 1. Except you get to see now, you get to see stuff that makes you question what the fuck actually was going on and like what time period this actually takes place in. You know what takes place before Strangers Prey at Night? Because, sorry, spoiler, these killers all get killed. But in this one, they're still just rolling along and killing people, and we have 2 Allens, Alan R. Cohen and Alan Friedland, who have done projects, like various television shows as well as Due Date, and this centers around Maya, played by Madeleine Pesch, or Petsch, however you say it, and Froy Gutierrez, who plays Ryan, and you might have seen them in a couple particular things. The one that plays Maya, you may recognize her from that show Riverdale. So yeah, there are a couple that are traveling apparently to Portland. Why you would do that, I have no idea. And they end up having car issues because they have a smart car and smartphones. And I have a question. What time period is this supposed to be taking place during? Because sure, it could take place after the first Strangers, which came out in 2008. But this push button stuff and all this modern technology, and I know it sounds silly to say that considering, a movie that came out in 2008 still had modern technology, but this push button stuff, it seems really top of the line, yet The Strangers Prey at Night came out 6 years ago and didn't have as much of that stuff, but whatever, it's fine. Their car has issues after they stop at a diner. There's a very beautiful woman as the waitress, I do want to say right there. I believe the character was Debbie. And from there, you find out that it's just another Stranger's plot. They stay at a cabin while their car is getting repaired, even though Ryan has his doubts. And he also has asthma. This is one of 2 movies I saw. I saw a triple feature and then had to reroute around a whole bunch of traffic because of bullshit that was going on. Check out Western Washington Traffic, Marysville Freeway Incident. You might actually be very surprised what happened. That being said, second movie that I saw that dealt with asthma. And yeah, that basically makes it as a plot device where he has to do something to leave his girlfriend all alone, and then the killers start assailing them. gradually doing weird pranks and doing weird shit, and yeah, they just do more of that stuff until it becomes obvious that the strangers are just wanting to kill them because that's what they do. There's nothing wrong with not having motives when it comes to your particular killers, and there's nothing wrong with focusing on a few particular people, or even a couple people that you want to kill if you make them interesting. However, if you thought that Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman weren't all that interesting, oh ho ho, Maya and Ryan, give them a run for their goddamn money. I can't tell you a fucking thing about these people beyond they were going to Portland for something. They weren't married, they've been together for 5 goddamn years, and then they proceed to make some of the dumbest decisions with some of the dumbest callbacks to the point that they are practically smacking you in the fucking skull. This is one of the worst horror movies of the year. It's one of the worst horror movies of the fucking decade. And there are 2 more. There are 2 more movies that are coming out. 2 more entries in this. Like, what lore are we trying to build? Was Lionsgate just wanting to burn a pile of money? I can't imagine this movie would have cost all that much anyway. I mean, hell, all 3 movies, Human Centipede together, probably would have cost maybe 30, 40 million at the most. And some of that should have gone to Rennie Harlan to say, we know you used to do good stuff, but could you do our trilogy? Are we sure Rennie Harlan did this and it wasn't just David Gordon Green wearing a Rennie Harlan skin mask? Because we know how David Gordon Green sure loves to ruin horror franchises. Take a look at what he did with Halloween after the 2018 Halloween. Take a look at what he did with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. And Exorcist Believer. Fuck you, David Gordon Green. Just want to say that. Yeah. Apparently it was a $25 million budget. I imagine that has to be for all 3. There is no way that this movie cost $25 million. And I will explain. It featured very, very... just cheap, not even set pieces. It just featured a lot of cheapness about it. It just felt very, very muted. And since you know what's going to happen with the killers and what's not going to happen in this film, it takes away all the, possibility like, oh, something bad could happen. Oh, maybe these people did this and all that, maybe this couple was able to get the advantage over them, except no, we know that's not the case. So when it comes to horror prequels, unless you're going to be like Annabelle Creation, and there can only be one Annabelle Creation, you're just going to end up being a catastrophic failure. And that's what this was. Good God, what in the goddamn hell were they thinking? The first Strangers hasn't aged all that well. Funny to say about something that's only 16 years old. But Jesus, apparently principal photography for this was done all the way back in 2022, September to November of 2022. Now, I don't know if that means all 3 of those were filmed in a 2-month period. If that is the goddamn case, then no wonder this movie felt rushed out and slapped together. But then it just sat on the shelf for a while. Was Lionsgate afraid of what people would say? Probably based on the Rotten Tomatoes score and the fact that some of the audience feedback early on is not all that great. There were 3 people in the theater when I watched this. And yeah, granted, it was on a Thursday evening and some people are busy, but this is in a city that generally will have at least a halfway decent turnout if people want to see it. And I was one of the 3, by the way. But they're somewhere in Oregon. Well, that narrows it goddamn down. Apparently they were in a town of I'm Your Venus, I'm Your Fire, Oregon Desire. So, yeah, nothing good about this. Nothing about this. I mean, since there's nothing really I can spoil, I'll talk about a few little Easter eggs and everything in the spoiler section. If you enjoyed the first Strangers, if you enjoyed Strangers Pray at Night, maybe you'll enjoy this. If you are like me, and I know I'm like me, if I wasn't like me, who else would I be? And you just want to see something fun as far as horror, even if it's not all that great, there's plenty of stuff on Tubi and other stuff. This is terrible. Wait for VOD. There's 2 more of these. Fuck. 3, 2, 1. Spoilers. So, a guy gets killed in the beginning, chased through the woods by this, trio of assailants. And then you see his poster on the, missing poster thing on the diner wall. And yeah, they almost get in an accident. Because they're trying to kiss and do the kissy stuff and everything. And then all of a sudden, oh no, they almost get in an accident on a state highway. That's what love gets you. Be single and be miserable. Because then at least if you get in an accident, it's your fucking fault. Yeah, so Ryan leaves his inhaler in the car and goes back to get it. Uses a motorcycle that's conveniently just there. and almost gets destroyed by the guy that is trying to fix his car. Sometime in the morning, they have to send something out to the dealer in Medford, which is one of the few big Oregon towns, at least on the west side, as it were. Yeah, I'm so goddamn white. He leaves Maya alone, and Maya just she's taking a shower, and then suddenly, ooh, the man in mask is there, and then pinup girl's there, and Dollface is there, and they're doing this crazy stuff, and they're not really accomplishing anything. We're just doing bad jump scares. There's one point where the door gets busted down by the axe. It's kind of hilarious. They've resigned themselves to the fate that, oh no, we're just stuck here. We're stuck here. We're totally stuck here. And then they left because they're just torturing them, but they're outside. We do the whole knock, knock, knock. Is Tamara home? And then one of the most hilarious yet stupidest callbacks to the first one. You know, like where the friend Mike comes down and then he gets blasted with the shotgun. This time they're creeping around the corner of the cabin and they're outside, and then they blast a guy that's trying to get in there. Now it's one of the guys that was trying to help them. Well, there you go. Good job there. You took away one of the only people that was going to help you. Maybe they were going to kill you. I'd fucking kill these people if it would have gotten that goddamn movie over. And I mean the characters. I don't mean the actual people. I'm sure they're lovely individuals. The redhead certainly is attractive. She wasn't given anything good to do here. And then there's this part where they're under the goddamn house trying to escape. And she puts her hand on a nail. It's a board with a nail in it. There's a rat going around. The rat was the best actor in the goddamn movie. And she just ends up almost, screaming and everything. And then the strangers are trying to kill them. And just do what strangers do. There's this funny part where they're in the woods and apparently a giant fog bank rolled in. I mean, I know it's the Pacific Northwest. We get a lot of fog, but this is like N64 or Silent Hill levels. Hey, wait. Stop. I think that was what the voice acting was, but nevertheless, no pyramid head here. Just something where they could have sat down and spun on a pyramid until they, got it through their goddamn mouth, because that would have been better than anything else they did here. I don't know if this is coming across, but I did not like this movie. And again, there really isn't all that much to spoil, just talking about a few Easter eggs and talking about a few stupid things. They leave their phones out so their phones get smashed instead of carrying your phone with you. What the fuck? And then, I think just before the basement part, like they flick the lighter on, I think the girl does. And there's pinup girl just right there, just ha 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 ha, and then she just disappears. She is able to get a hold of the cops while buried under dirt and everything, because she uses a cell phone from the person whose face, Ryan blasted off. And he's having inhaler issues. He doesn't have his inhaler, so he has to dump a water bottle out and do the thing, where he's like trying to reset his lung capacity. That does not look like resetting the lung capacity. I used to have asthma, actually. I got into band and it actually offset it mostly, even though you can tell sometimes I have some breathing issues, but it's way better than it used to be. I had like 30% lung capacity. It was bad. So asthma's no joke. But he has the shotgun that he used to blast the guy's face off, and he has it at the back of Pinup Girl's, head. And then she drops the knife and does a weird dancing thing and all this stuff and does all this goofy stuff. It's so bad. And then the man in mask knocks him out, and they're back together, and they're back in the house. And then he gets stabbed and killed. She gets stabbed. But she has called the cops. The cops show up, and the cops just don't get there in time, even though a puff of, dust and everything is all around. And they could have looked and said, that truck's kind of going off. Should we go get him? No need. Let's go to this house. And then Maya is in the hospital. Then we cut the credits. And then we do a mid-credits scene where she is freaking out. She kind of gets up. And then the man in mask is just there in the hospital bed. How did he get there? Who thought this was a good idea? I don't know who thought this was a good idea, but I know what it wasn't, and this was anything good. The Strangers Chapter 1 was abysmal. This was an abominable piece of shit. An abomination. A goddamn atrocity. One of the worst examples of horror. One critic said, I don't remember who it was, I wish I would have wrote it down, everything that is wrong with modern horror. Everything's wrong with horror in general. This made me hate being a horror movie fan. Thank you, Rennie Harlan. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to two Allens that wrote this. Maybe they're the David Gordon Green of this goddamn thing, because Rennie Harlan at least did something good. Yeah, F, in case you can't figure it out. F. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Everybody makes dumb, bad decisions. These killers are not scary. I'm sorry. They're probably the least, scary, effective killers I've seen in a while. Plus, it's a prequel. We're getting 2 more of these. Well, I watched them. You guys pretty much will want me to watch them, so why not? They couldn't get any worse than this. I cursed it. F again. 3, so let's just go. 3 more of these. Well, 3 altogether. So nevertheless, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.